Ladies and gentlemen, on today's episode, we have a sneak peek at an exciting new reel from Ark Fishing. Megabass finally drops its newest jerkbait in the 110 lineup. We talk about the worst fishing lines in the industry. We have fresh results from Major League Fishing's REDCREST and the Bassmaster Elite Series at the Arkansas River. And we answer your questions about frogging reels, fish movement in creeks, the old school technique of back reeling, and more on today's episode of Tackle Talk.
Hello, everybody. I'm Bill Dance, and you're listening to Tackle Talk.
This is the Tackle Talk Podcast, brought to you by The Rod Locker. Premium gear and expert advice from a staff you can trust. Now, here's your host, Andrew Hayes.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Tackle Talk Podcast. I appreciate you all tuning in today on this fine Tuesday, if you are listening to this on the day that it comes out. Before we jump into the show today, and we have a ton to cover today, a great jam-packed kind of standard episode of Tackle Talk here and what you've come to expect from the show. We will get to all of that in just a second, but first, we are brought to you by the great folks over at The Rod Locker. The Rod Locker is an awesome fishing retailer located in Evansville, Indiana, right here in the Midwest, ran by two great guys. Brian and Chad are running that tackle shop like you wish a tackle shop was run, by people who actually care, who care about you, who care about giving you deals, who care about helping you pick the right gear. You get service from the Rod Locker that you just do not get from anywhere else. And you're going to get sales that we've talked about, in previous weeks. We had like the buy one, get one free Shimano Zodius deal that they did that you were not going to see anywhere else. They just did an awesome deal for 25% off all Dobbins rods. Now, to get deals like that, you need to tune in to what the Rod Locker is doing. You can't just rely on this show because some of those deals pop up very spur of the moment. So I would suggest that you go follow their Facebook page, go join the Rod Locker community group over on Facebook. They post some great deals there. And I would highly recommend that you become an elite member because you get exclusive sales. You get notified of all of this stuff early. Like if you're looking for Megabass Respect Series colors or any sort of deals they're going to do over at the Rod Locker, they give you kind of the tip off first so that you can get the gear that you want before kind of the mad rush on that gear happens when those sales go live. You also get free shipping with no minimums on every order. You boost your rewards, so you get great credit back for every single purchase that you buy over at the Rod Locker. So many benefits, but above all else, great people running a great tackle shop with a crazy selection of both new and used gear. So go check them out over at www.rodlocker.com. And as always, you can use our code TackleTalkApril, all one word. That's going to save you an extra 5% off your entire order. Use it as many times as you want. TackleTalkApril over at www.rodlocker.com. Okay, first up here today, we have some results from the premier Major League Fishing event of the season, REDCREST. And this is, as you all know, the top tournament of the year for the Bass Pro Tour. This is their Super Bowl. This is their Bassmaster Classic, the top prize in the MLF world. And the 2026 REDCREST Championship just finished up in Springfield, Missouri, which is a fitting place for a championship for the Bass Pro Shop's Bass Pro Tour. Definitely not a coincidence there, but it took place April 17th through 19th at Table Rock Lake, and we've got your results. So the top 10 from the 2026 REDCREST Championship for Major League Fishing: 10th place, Mr. REDCREST himself, Dustin Connell; 9th place, Jeff Sprague; 8th place, Spencer Shuffield; 7th place, Mark Daniels Jr.; 6th place, Alton Jones Jr.; 5th place, Drew Gill; 4th went to Brent Ayler; 3rd, Zach Burge; 2nd place, Takahiro Omori; and 1st place, Jacob Wheeler. So for like 7 years now, I guess it probably has been, this has been the thorn in Jacob Wheeler's side. Over his career so far, he has won like 11 Bass Pro Tour championships. He's won a Forest Wood Cup. He's won a Bassmaster Elite Series event. He's won MLF Angler of the Year like 4 times. He's been an unstoppable force on the BPT, but there was always one thing missing, and that was REDCREST. And now, after Sunday, that has all changed. And REDCREST, like I said at the top, is Major League Fishing's equivalent of the Bassmaster Classic. It's the annual championship above all other tournaments, and 2026 was finally Jacob Wheeler's year. And I said it right after this tournament ended. I said, there's not a lot of firsts that are left for Jacob Wheeler. He's done it all, it seems like, at this point, but this was one of them. This was one of those things that was just kind of looming overhead that people were like, hey, when is he going to win a REDCREST, which is, again, the equivalent of like the classic on the Major League Fishing side. Well, now that storyline is a thing of the past. So it shouldn't surprise anybody that this win comes on Table Rock, where Wheeler actually won his first of his 11 Bass Pro Tour wins right here at Table Rock in 2019. So he's got some history here. And he took the lead 15 minutes after lines in on Championship Sunday, and he never gave up that lead once. And even though he built a hefty lead, Takahiro Mori was inching up behind him, jackhammer in hand. And if this would have gone another like hour or two, there's no telling what could have happened. This might have been a very different outcome. But Jacob Wheeler certainly is the most dominant professional angler of the past 5 or 10 years, quite possibly ever. Like, we have to start having that conversation if you haven't already between him and Kevin. And right now, Jacob has a lot of gas left in the tank. So I think it's worth considering, and we'll probably watch this over the next couple of years as this resume continues to pad and just the generational run that Jacob Wheeler has been on. And I'll say it for the 10,000th time, just be thankful that we get to watch what Wheeler is doing right now. It's just remarkable. Like, there's not really a whole lot of words to describe what he's been doing over the past decade or so. And you really have to just appreciate greatness when it's right in front of you and just be glad that you got to be around to watch it. So congratulations to Jacob Wheeler, your 2026 REDCREST champion. All right, also really quickly, we have a Bassmaster Elite Series stop that we need to fill you in on. And this was in Muskogee, Oklahoma, cue the Merle Haggard, I guess, as 101 anglers competed for the 2026 Gamakatsu Bassmaster Elite at the Arkansas River. So your top 10 here from the Arkansas River on the Bassmaster Elite Series side: 10th place, Trey McKinney; 9th place, Cole Sands; 8th, Caleb Hudson; 7th place, Corey Johnston; 6th place, Luke Palmer; 5th, Fisher Anaya; 4th place, Jason Christie; 3rd, Pat Schlopper; 2nd place, Austin Felix; and 1st place, your champion on the Arkansas River, Jacob Fouts. So Jacob Fouts gets it done. A guy that has definitely had some ups and downs over the past few years. There's no doubt about that. He was one of the most polarizing anglers on tour a few years ago when he made a very viral video about the current state of professional bass fishing and the money involved and sort of like the fairness or unfairness of it all. And a lot of folks at the time kind of labeled him a bit of a whiner, I guess, for a lack of better terms at that point. But Jacob Fouts bounces back in a huge way. And from what I know about Jacob, he's a worker. It seems like he has busted his tail to turn things around and get where he is now. I mean, he's cashed checks in 4 of his last 5 tournaments after going through a 5-tournament dry spell right before that. So riding the ship in a big way at the Arkansas River. He's got a cool $100,000 check and his very first Bassmaster Elite Series Blue Trophy. Congratulations to Jacob Fouts. All right, let's keep it moving here. The very next thing, really fast, I just have to give a shout out that this is actually now on the market, is the brand new Megabass Vision 110 Plus 2 Junior. You heard us talk a little bit about this a couple weeks ago. Very excited for this to come out. Over the years, I have become more and more of a Vision 110 guy. I know that they're expensive. I know it sucks buying a bait that costs that much, that breaks that easily, but there is something about a 110 that's just deadly, especially in like really finessey situations in cold water. A 110 is a must-have in your box. And we throw a lot of 110s. We throw a lot of 110 plus 1s. The 110 plus 1 Junior is a killer for us around here. And I'm very excited that they are finally coming out with a Megabass Vision 110 plus 2 Junior. That plus 2 means that it dives even deeper. So if you want to go with like your regular juniors, you have your Vision 110 Junior, your Vision 110 plus 1 Junior that dives a little bit deeper. And now we're getting a even more extremely deep diving version. And obviously deep is relative. Its listed depth of this plus 2 Junior is going to be 9 to 10 feet, which might not sound like a lot, but for a bait that small, this bait is under 4 inches. It's 3 inches and like 7/8 or something like that. And it suspends great. This is a bait that will play for us around here in the Midwest when you need to get just a little bit deeper, especially on short casts, and you need it to get down there. You don't have, 80 yards to get that bait down to its desired depth. You need to get down there quicker. This is going to be a bait that will hopefully be able to do that. So the description here from Megabass says the Vision 110 plus 2 Junior brings bite-sized jerkbait appeal to new depths, matching the tournament-winning 9 to 10-foot range of the full-sized 110+1. With a sculpted bill set along the lure's central axis, the Plus 2 Junior achieves the kind of dynamic, razor-sharp darting action that earns the Vision 110 series a place in every serious jerkbait angler's arsenal. At target depths, the Plus 2 Junior displays remarkably wide and responsive darting action. The contoured body throws off intense flash before coming to rest with a delicate shimmying appeal, provoking compulsive bites from deep cruisers. With an aerodynamic form and dual tungsten weight transfer system, the 110 Plus 2 Junior outcasts expectations, bringing hard-fought trophies within reach. So again, it looks like your retail on this is going to be $23.99, and I currently have 2 of them on the way to me as we speak. I bought them this morning when we're recording this, so they are on the way. I am excited to get these out on the water, but just for those of you that were waiting for this to finally hit store shelves, they are available now. The 110 Plus 2 Junior. I know the Rod Locker has them in stock. You can go to rodlocker.com and you can use code TackleTalkApril. Help yourself out a little bit. Go try some new Plus 2 Juniors if you've been waiting on these eagerly like I have. All right, next up here, let's keep with the new gear theme. And I don't want to call it an exclusive because it's not, but I have a very, very, very early tease of a new reel coming out very, very soon from Ark. Now, this reel is so new that it doesn't even appear anywhere on the Ark website yet, at least not when I'm recording this episode. But I got wind of this new reel coming from Ark a few weeks ago, and it looks like the details of it finally made it to at least one retailer's website, which means that technically this information is now out there on the internet for anybody to see if you look in the right spot. So we're not technically breaking a Tackle Talk rule here of breaking news before the brand is ready, because it's already technically out there for someone to find anyway. So the reel that we're talking about today is the brand new BFS reel from Ark called the Ark Gravity BFS Avid. And the reason that I'm talking about this today is because of the price point. This reel is slated to retail at $99.99. Now, before this, Ark still had one of the more affordable BFS reels on the market at $149 with the Gravity BFS. I mean, a Shimano Corrado BFS is like $235 now. A Daiwa Tatula BF 70, I think they are, is like $300. The Abu Garcia Revo X BFS is $160. And then if you want to go, quote unquote, affordable BFS reels from there, you basically have to go to like Cast King with the Kestrel at $120 or the Zephyr at $75. But I will say it's $75 for that Zephyr. You are getting a very cheap feeling reel. It feels very plasticky, I guess. I mean, I don't really know any other way to explain it. It feels like the outside, the inside, the internals, everything feels very cheaply made and overly plastic in your hands. Sturdy does not come to mind when I think of that Zephyr. So really, I would say your entry-level BFS reels start somewhere, I guess if you're talking like Americanized brands, now not made in America because none of these are made in America, but in the American market and brands we're familiar with, you're really starting at like $150 for a solid BFS reel that is usable. Now, if you want to go below $100, then honest to goodness, you're usually better off looking at like an AliExpress or one of those painfully, obviously foreign market sites. And then you go with a brand that you've just never heard of around here, but will still be okay. So like High Star, Doviello, I think is one of them. I'm going to butcher these names, but I'm just trying to think of things that I've seen on AliExpress before. Solo King, some of those are names that you'll start to see if you look around for cheaper BFS reels. But now Ark is jumping into the $99 game with the Gravity BFS Avid. So the copy here that I have says, built with a simplified gravity control braking system, the Ark Fishing Gravity BFS Avid casting reels are geared for anglers that are new to BFS. The GCS LT brake system combined with a shallow 28mm spool diameter makes the BFS Avid reel proficient at casting lightweight lures with a finesse bait casting setup. Perfect for targeting multiple species, including bass, the Gravity BFS Avid casting reels dole out 11 pounds of max drag to help you land big bass and trout. Lightweight and armed with smooth 7-bearing systems for reliable performance, the Ark Gravity BFS Avid casting reels are excellent entry-level options for anglers who want to try BFS fishing without draining their bank account. So the features listed here say GCS LT brake system for smooth, easy control. You've got a 28 millimeter spool diameter, audible drag clicker. You get a max drag of 11 pounds, 7 bearings, all of that at $99.99 from Ark. So if you want to compare this new $99 Avid to their original Ark Gravity BFS, it just kind of looks like a cheaper version. You're probably getting more of like a crossover reel here, I would say. It's going to be slightly heavier, a slightly heavier spool, I'm guessing. You're getting a slightly less refined braking system, or what they call in the copy a simplified gravity control braking system. From what I can see in the pictures, the ergonomics look exactly the same. The frame shaping is basically identical. This new $99 BFS Avid looks like it's got some orange accents on the spool and the tension knob. And it just kind of looks like they, what did the kids say? They nerfed, I think, the Gravity BFS reel a little bit to get it down to this price point for the Avid. So I hope that it's a good starter BFS reel because it does hit our magic $99 price point here at Tackle Talk. I really want to see this be a good reel. It's an 8-to-1, so you get a fast reel. Both right and left-handed models are going to be available, and it looks like they should be available sometime in May, so we're probably about a month or two away. So like I said, we'll keep an eye on this. I know there are a lot of you that listen to this show that like BFS. I'm not a huge BFS guy. You guys know that, but it doesn't mean that people listening aren't. So I want to make sure we keep some tabs on the BFS gear out there as well. I do hope this is an awesome entry-level reel because there are a lot of people that are kind of BFS curious out there. But the problem with BFS is that everything is so darn expensive. The reels are expensive. The rods are expensive. The baits are way too expensive for the little amount of material that goes into them, especially like true BFS hard baits. So again, I do hope that this is a good option for all of you out there in the sub $100 market. And it would probably make a nasty little creek and reel for some of you out there too that might not be like full into the BFS stuff, but like a little lighter gear if you're targeting fish in small water. So we'll keep an eye on this. I'm hoping to get my hands on one of these soon once they come out. It is right there in my price range. And we will hopefully put this one through the ringer as well. We got a couple reels that I want to do that with. This will be one of them. That new Abu Garcia Voltic is one of them that I want to really put through the trenches. So here in the next couple weeks, we hopefully will have a lot of fun with some reels out on the water, and I will report back. All right, let's keep moving here in the show today. We are going to get to the fishing pole in just a second. We have a really fun one because we get to talk about things that you don't like here in a second. But first, the fishing pole is brought to you in part by Humminbird. And I'm not sure if any sonar company out there has had a bigger last year than Humminbird has because of the introduction of their incredibly popular Explore series of fish finders and graphs that just have got rave reviews since their release. Humminbird kept what Humminbird does best, mainly incredible sonar, but they also rewrote the Humminbird book on menu navigation, waypoint management, and the overall user interface with these new Explore units, and that's what makes them so awesome. So they come in 3 sizes, 9 inches, 10 inches, and 12 inches. They obviously handle 2D, Mega Down, Mega Side imaging. They're compatible with Mega Live 2, which is their forward-facing sonar. They come complete with Lake Master and Coastmaster maps included, which is a huge benefit. And they can connect to Minn Kota products, and you can control them on demand. All of that from a great, easy-to-use line of fish finders that start at $14.99. So for more information on the Explore series of fish finders, you can head over to www.humminbird.com/explore. That's humminbird.com/XPLORE. The Tackle Talk podcast is also brought to you in part by Minn Kota. And today, let's shine the spotlight on a workhorse trolling motor for years that anglers have relied on, the Terrova. There are so many options in that Terrova family. You have, I think, 4 different shaft lengths. You have regular brushed motors. You have Quest brushless trolling motors. You have options to come fully equipped with like Mega Down and Mega Side imaging or dual spectrum chirp sonar. I think there's 3 different voltages that you can choose from in the Terrova lineup. You've got 12 volt, 24 volt, 36 volts. So no matter what battery you have a Terrova to match it. The Terrova is just as tough as the anglers who fish it. And it all starts at $17.49 for a brushed 54-inch 12-volt trolling motor in that family, and then you can work your way up from there. And I promise you, whatever you need, whatever budget, whatever type of water you're fishing, there is a Minn Kota for you. Whether it's basic or insanely advanced with like tech-heavy features, see for yourself why so many anglers trust Minn Kota to get them where they need to go. So for more information, you can head over to www.minnkotamotors.com.
This is the Tackle Talk Podcast Fishing Pole. Brought to you by Humminbird. Explore more at humminbird.com.
All right, folks, on today's installment of the Fishing Pole, presented by Humminbird and Minn Kota, we have a doozy of a question, and it is a great example of why this show is a little bit different from some other shows that you probably listen to out there, because most shows or anglers or influencers or YouTubers tend to sugarcoat a lot of things. They're trying to get sponsors. They're trying to keep people happy. You're trying to stay in companies' good graces and things like that. And that's the problem, is that not all products are worthy of praise. Real anglers and real people have real opinions on gear, and they're not all positive. There's a lot of gear out there that I do not like. Specific baits, specific rods, specific reels, and in today's case, fishing line. So I feel like very rarely nowadays will you see folks online like talking heads be like, this product is complete garbage, because reviews aren't reviews anymore. They're paid promotion. But today we're going to peel back the curtain and we're going to talk openly and honestly about some fishing lines that we just flat out do not like. And we're going to call them out by name, by brand, all of that, because I want to do my best to be as honest and straight down the middle with you guys with my answers. And I'm hoping that you guys will all do the same in the answers that you submitted that we'll look at here in a minute. So today's question is, what is your least favorite fishing line? And I asked for specifics, at least when I put this question out there. I'm sure we're going to get a lot of people that just wrote in brand names, but I'm really not just looking for brand names. I'm looking for the actual line. So not to like say that this is one of them, but I'm not looking for you to say Shimano. I'm looking for you to say Shimano Mastiff, right? A specific line made by a specific company is kind of what we're looking for here. So I'm going to start. I'll give you a good example. It's no secret. I am not a fan of Seaguar Red Label. It's a strong word, but I would go as far as to say that I hate Seaguar Red Label fluorocarbon. I have had such bad experiences with the 2 or 3 different spools of Seaguar Red Label that I have bought. And the last one that I bought was probably 2015. I had some problems between 2014 and 2015 with this line, and I never touched it again. And one day I went out fishing Seaguar Red Label for the first time that I ever had it spooled up, like fresh on a couple of my bait casters. And I probably broke off at my knot, like clean knot breaks, probably 7 to 8 times in a 3-hour window. Like every time I would set the hook on a fish bigger than half a pound, that knot would fail. And I was using like 14 to 16 pound fluorocarbon, somewhere around there. I can't remember the actual pound test, but I know that it was pretty middle of the road. It was not like I was out there swinging for the fences on, 8 pound or 10 pound or something. It was pretty middle of the road, somewhere between 14 and 16 pound. And I tied the same polymer knot that I have tied my entire life and never had issues with. Like I can probably count on maybe 2 hands the number of times that I have snapped a clean knot with a hook set since then, and that's been like 10 years, and I did it almost that many times in a matter of a few hours. And I don't know what it was, but it was a horrible enough experience that I took that line off of my reels, and I probably waited another, maybe 6 to 8 months before I put it on again and tried it again. Had the same issues, was breaking off fish left and right, and I was cursing this, and it was a completely different spool. So I really tried to say, hey, maybe I got a bad spool, maybe I got a bad batch, I don't know. But once my frustration had died, I gave it another shot, and I had the same issues with lines breaking right there at the knot. So since then, like I said, it's been about 10 years ago, I have not touched it, and I do not plan on touching it anytime soon ever again. I use plenty of other Seaguar lines. I'm not here to take a dump on Seaguar because I like Seaguar. Invisex, AbrazeX, Tatsu, all really great lines. Smackdown is great, but Red Label, Seaguar Red Label fluorocarbon easily makes my list of my least favorite lines on the planet. And that's what I want to do. Not saying Seaguar, because that's not the answer I'm looking for in today's fishing pole, but I'm looking for Seaguar Red Label. That's what we want, actual product name. So that's my number one, probably. Another line that I actually wanted to like when it came out because of its strength claims that they made initially when this line came out, but then when I used it, I absolutely hated it, was Spiderwire Durabraid. I thought this line was stiffer than all get out, even for spider wire. And I don't mean to take a dump on spider wire either, because some of it is serviceable, especially at the price point you're getting at. But I mean, if we're being real, at the end of the day, most of spider wire's stuff is not great. And it's not something that I'm going to go out and buy. But I did try DuraBraid. I wanted to like it, but I had a lot of issues with it. One thing I really didn't like, I actually tried to use some of it on some of my spinning gear, just some lighter, like whatever it was, 10 to 15 pound DuraBraid, just to see what it would do. Oh my gosh, on spinning rods, it sounded like a freight train coming through my guides and through that tip. I don't even want to think about it. It was rough sounding, rough feeling. I had it on for about 30 minutes and I actually stripped it off on the water because I just couldn't take it anymore. So that's probably going to make my list too. Spider wire DuraBraid has to be on there. And then another line that has to be on this list is Berkley Vanish. Vanish has to be one of the worst fluorocarbons ever put on the market. It is so brittle. You're probably going to have a ton of breakage issues. I mean, the old joke with me and my buddies, and I'm sure this is not like a novel thing. I'm sure a lot of other people make this joke too. But when you're fishing Vanish, the only thing that will vanish will be your lure when you break off inevitably. So Berkley Vanish has to be on this list. Just an abysmal line that I'm honestly surprised is still out there. I'm surprised they still make it. This is not just me saying that. You can literally go look anywhere, talk to anybody. I guarantee, I have not looked at the results yet. I guarantee there are going to be so many answers that say Berkley Vanish when you guys submit these fishing polls that it's not even close, because it has to be like widely the most hated fishing line out there. So those are probably my top three in my mind, or I guess bottom three, depending on how you want to look at it, for worst fishing lines out there. I think Berkley Vanish has to be on this list for sure. I'm going to put Spider Wire DuraBraid on here, and I'm going to put Seaguar Red Label. Those are my top three not buying anytime soon lines for me personally. Now, the funny part about fishing line is that everybody has a different experience when it comes to these lines. There will be people, and maybe you're one of them, that's listening in your car right now, or at work, or you're working out, or you're mowing the lawn or whatever, and you will audibly gasp when you hear me say something like, I hate Seaguar Red Label, or I hate DuraBraid. I don't know anybody that's going to gasp at saying that I hate Vanish, but the other two, I'm sure there are people who are big fans of those lines listening right now that can't believe that those made my list. And then there are going to be brands that I'm a huge fan of that I'm sure a lot of you are not a huge fan of. So a funny one that comes to mind for me is Sunline Assassin. I actually really like Sunline Assassin. It's cheaper than Sniper. It goes on sale quite a bit, especially Black Friday timeframe. I bought some big bulk spools last Black Friday, and I've used them for all kinds of stuff. And it's actually the line that's on my glide bait rod right now, 20-pound Assassin. That is the line that I am trusting with huge baits, huge fish. It's Assassin. And I've really liked it. But meanwhile, my buddy that I fish with all the time bought some at the same time I did on Black Friday, and he hates it. Curses its existence. He says it's trash, and he's probably a better angler than I am. He's a guy who knows his stuff and he knows his gear, and he has broken off enough times with that Assassin that he's done with it. And then here I am. I haven't broken off a single time with it since I started using it, and I've probably caught 50 to 100 fish on that one setup alone, including some tank fish on 2-ounce glide baits. So all that to say that line choice is very, very subjective, which is what makes this segment fun, because I feel like you guys are going to have some really fun answers, especially because you get to stay anonymous and submit your answers. And it's really funny because I can see who submits responses, and it would be really funny if some of you could see some of the quote unquote big names that you would recognize and their answers, especially for questions like this. But we run a respectable show here. Your secrets are safe with me. So let's see what you all said for your least favorite fishing lines. So I'm going to open this up here. And, oh yeah, these are great. So I'm just going to read down some of these, starting at the top, and then I will probably pop back in and compile some numbers to give you guys more of a percentage, but I just want to read down this list because this is great. So in no particular order here, I'm just going to pick a spot on this list and start reading. The answers are Spider Wire, anything Spider Wire, all Spider Wire. Oh my God. So there's three of the first three answers right off the bat are Spider Wire. Next one says Zebco, Ragin' Cajun Redline. Next one says Berkley Vanish. Another Berkley Vanish. We have Power Pro Braid, Spider Wire Braid, Spider Wire, BPS Fluoro, Mastiff, P-Line, Berkley Vanish, anything Spider Wire, to be honest, Berkley Vanish, Power Pro V1, Spider Wire Stealth Braid, Cajun Redline, Stren Mono. Oh my God. Okay, stop right there. Come on. This was all fun and games until someone insults the purple box Stren Mono. Easy there, killer, whoever submitted this. Those are fighting words. You leave Stren out of this. We should have said that you cannot put Stren purple box because Stren purple box is goated. I will not sit here and let Stren be trashed like that. The audacity of you, sir. Let's keep going here. We have Berkeley Vanish. We have P-Line Floraclear, Cast King Hammer Braid, Spiderwire Stealth, Spiderwire, Vanish, Trilene, Cigar Basics, Berkeley Trilene. Okay, here we go. That's like, 3 out of 4 for Trilene. Berkeley Fireline, Power Pro Braid, Berkeley Vanish, Spiderwire, Cigar Red Label, Cigar Basics, Berkeley Trilene, P-Line Floraclear, Cigar Red Label, Berkeley Vanish, Yozuri Easy Braid, Cigar Smackdown, P-Line Floraclear, Cigar Red Label, Power Pro, Cortland Master Braid, Spiderwire, Berkeley Vanish Fluorocarbon, Berkeley Fireline, P-Line Floraclear, Vicious, Cigar Red Label, Spiderwire Braid, any of it, Suffix, Sunline All Might, Spiderwire Braid, P-Line Mono, Cigar, and that's like, I don't know, maybe 1/40th, it seems like, of the responses here. So I think you guys are getting the point. There are a few names that keep popping up more than anything by far, and that's Berkeley Vanish, which I think even Ray Charles or Stevie Wonder could have seen that coming. It's just a bad line. The whole world agrees. We can't agree on politics. We can't agree on forward-facing sonar, but gosh darn it, the entire world can agree that Berkeley Vanish is not good fishing line. We also have a huge percentage of respondents that mentioned Spiderwire in some capacity. Now, I specifically said Durabraid, but a lot of these submissions here just say Spiderwire in general, which again wasn't the purpose of this poll, but it seems like a ton of people said Spiderwire, and the point is well taken. Your clear 1-2 punch of worst lines were, ironically, 2 picks that were on my list too. And then from there, some other popular picks are Berkeley Trilene, P-Line Floraclear, Red Label does get quite a few mentions in here. And then just keep in mind, like I said, this is like, I don't even know, like 1 bajillionth of the responses that we have in here, but I just picked a segment there to give you guys a rough idea. So after having some help calculating these responses a little bit, it looks like in round numbers anyway, about 23% of people said Berkeley Vanish. And then your next closest answer was like 19% said some form of Spiderwire. So that's like almost 41% of responses are split amongst those 2 answers, which is very, very telling. And then there's a big drop off. And then we have like P-Line Floraclear at about 6%. You've got Berkeley Trilene at 6%. And then you have a ton of other ones down here that are in like the 1 to 2% range. Just a huge list of things that got mentioned a couple times. So there you go. For newer anglers out there that might be interested in buying some line sometime soon, don't take my word for it. Take the word of the rest of the Tackle Talk Nation out there. I would avoid Berkeley Vanish, and I would avoid a lot of the offerings out there from Spiderwire. Okay, we'll keep moving here. We are going to get to the mailbag in just a second, but first, the Tackle Talk podcast and the mailbag are powered by Amped Outdoors. And let me tell you, as an angler that just has one goal and one goal only, which is to catch fish, there are certain pieces of my equipment that I just need to work at all times, and I never want to have to worry about them. And one of those is my batteries. Whether I'm 5 miles downstream in a fast river and quite literally need my motor to work to be able to get me back safely, or whether it's just like my only day off that month and I need to capitalize on every second and I need my side imaging and mapping to work flawlessly all day with no interruptions, you need a reliable power source. And that's why I'm running Amped Outdoors lithium batteries. I need my batteries to be high quality. I don't want cheap Amazon batteries that will last me a year and then I'm SOL with no warranty. I need reliable, efficient power, and Amped gives that to me. So I have 2 Amped lithiums in my kayak at all times. I have my 24 volt 50 amp hour and I have my 12 volt 30 amp hour. Those are the only 2 batteries I need to handle everything that I do out on the water. Plus, with my 50 amp hour, I get Bluetooth connectivity, I get heated charging, and all my batteries come with a 10-year no BS warranty from a great family-owned company in Wisconsin that actually stands behind their products. So that's why I and so many anglers these days are choosing Amped Outdoors. And I guess I should probably also mention, they're like half the price of the batteries that I used to use with incredible customer service, features, reliability, and selection. So if you're ready to step up your battery game, you can head over to www.ampedoutdoors.com and check out their full line of batteries, chargers, and power stations. Again, that is www.ampedoutdoors.com.
This is the Tackle Talk Podcast Mailbag, powered by Amped Outdoors, your source for premium, affordable lithium batteries.
All right, our first question here is from Cole, who says, I'm getting back into fishing with weather warming up and some big life changes opening up opportunities to actually get out and fish. There's so much content out there, it can be hard to understand what's what. When it comes to fishing rods, I have 2 spinning medium heavy fasts and 1 casting medium heavy fast. 1 spin and 1 cast are rods I sunk some cash into to make nice, with the exception of the bait caster reel. Anyways, how do I know which bait caster reel is good enough for frog fishing? They range from 300 to 500 easy, and for rods, I've seen people say medium heavy, and some others say heavy or super heavy. Do you only frog on bait casters? It has not been an easy experience, and I often default to the spinning rod. And finally, are mediums and medium light rods worth getting? Thanks and God bless. So handy being able to go through old podcasts. Cole. Man, okay, so let's go frog fishing here. No, a frog fishing reel does not have to cost you $300 to $500 if that's what that meant in that sentence there. For the rod, let's go the rod first, I guess. Heavy is my minimum. I throw a heavy, fast rod at minimum. I have a mag heavy that I use. Now that's a Dobbins, which means that their mag heavy is really like a heavy with a lot of other people, but I do not frog with a medium heavy casting rod at all. I am a heavy or up. So my preference is a 7'3" heavy fast. And then my bare minimum for braid is 50 pound, but I often run 65 pound braid for frogging is my favorite. So yes, a bait caster and casting gear is a must have for me for frog fishing. It's one of my few non-negotiables in fishing. I want casting gear. I want heavy gear. I want fast gear. All of that is important to me for frogging. Now, as far as the reel goes, I want a reel that has an aluminum frame because I want it to be durable. And I want an 8-to-1 if I can get it. I want a fast reel so I can pick up as much line as possible to maintain that leverage over those fish that could be in that slop or the weeds or the brush, wherever you're throwing that frog. A lot of times you're throwing a frog in places that are not pretty. They're not wide open. There's a lot of obstacles. You need that ability to maintain tension and maintain pressure on that fish. And that comes from the line, that comes from the reel, and that comes from the rod, all of those working in unison together. Now, as far as the budget for that casting reel you were talking about, I mean, usually if you're going to get a durable reel with like an aluminum or like a metal frame on it, you're going to look at like $130 and up nowadays. That's just the going rate for casting reels that don't have graphite all the way around it. So you're looking at like SLXs or Tatulas are both kind of like the floor for me for frogging. But I mean, you can get for like $144 an SLX XTA from Shimano. It's an 8.2-to-1. That is a great budget-friendly option for a frogging reel. That's almost going to be like 3 times less than the budget that you were just talking about if you were hinting at that $300 to $500 range. I mean, a $500 frogging reel, geez, I don't know if you're like throwing a Daiwa Zillion or what, but that is a very, very expensive reel that I would not buy for frogging. So no, you can set up a very nice frogging setup. If you get a heavy, fast rod, I would go 7 foot and up. I like 7.3, and then get an aluminum frame reel as fast as you can get, like an 8-to-1. And that SLX XTA is a great option under $150. Your last question there was, are mediums and light rods worth getting? Short answer, yes. It's just for certain applications. So like mediums, if you're talking casting, I guess, mediums are great for jerk baits. They're great for top waters. You can, skip little Senkos under docks and stuff with them. Like there are times and places for medium casting rods. Now, medium spinning rods, heck yeah, that is like the do-all spinning rod. So I know in your question, you said you have 2 medium heavy fast spinning rods. I would say your next purchase should honestly probably be a medium spinning rod, because that is a one-trick pony. Almost everything that you could do with a spinning rod, I would prefer to do with a medium versus your medium heavies. And then light rods, yeah, if you're out there fishing for crappie or panfish or a little drop shot you want to have some fun with, or you're creeking, then yeah, a light rod can be fun. But I don't think a light rod is a necessity for bass fishing. I do think a medium rod is. All right, next question here is from Gavin, who says, hey, huge fan of the podcast. I'm 13 years old and live in Eastern Missouri. I have no idea if you've ever fished there, but I was wondering if you could give me some Midwest fishing tips in general. One major question of mine is, should I buy a 6-foot or a 6.5-foot rod for my neighborhood bass ponds? Thank you, Gavin. Okay, Gavin, I want to give you like a funny story here. You asked if I should buy a 6-foot or a 6.5-foot rod. I might have told this story on the podcast here before. If I have, I apologize. But one of the funniest things I can remember, I went to a fishing expo about 10 years ago here in Columbus. And I think I've attributed this quote a lot to Ish Monroe. I think it was Ish Monroe that said this. And if not, I apologize. But this is how I remember it happening. We were at the Hog Trough. We were watching a seminar. Ish Monroe was giving a seminar on just regular bass fishing, and a gentleman in the front row asked a question when it came time for Q&A, and he had 2 6'6" rods in his hands. And he said, hey, Ish, I heard you throughout your seminar talk about 7-foot, 7'6", 7'11" rods. And he's like, I just bought these 2 6'6" rods on sale here at the expo. What would you use these rods for? And I remember Ish looking at him and saying, absolutely nothing. And I just thought it was so funny. This guy in the front row had just bought these 2 rods, was so proud of them. And then Ish is like, no, I'm not using a 6-foot or a 6'6" rod for anything. I throw 7-foot and up. And again, this is like 10 plus years ago, so I'm sure I got some of that wrong, but that is how I remember that interaction going. And the moral of the story is there's a lot of people out there that do not throw anything below 7 foot because you're going to get so much more casting distance with a longer rod. Now, you're 13 years old, Gavin, so you may not be like super tall, and a 6-foot or 6'6" might fit you right now. Just something to keep in mind down the road is if you are on that edge and you're looking for like a 6'6" rod, it might be worth it to actually look at a 7-foot. It might feel really long in your hands when you first start using it, but I promise you, especially if you're fishing neighborhood ponds and you're trying to bomb cast and trying to reach certain spots because you are stuck on the bank, a 7-foot rod can make a big difference. So I would recommend going with the 6'6" between those two options if you're giving me the option of 6-foot or 6'6", but I would say a 7-foot if it were me. The sooner you can get used to a 7-foot rod, I think the better, and I do think you'll be able to cast a little better for it. As far as Midwest tips in general, the one thing I think about the Midwest is we are so pressured. These fish are pressured. So when you talk about pressure, that just means that fish is seeing a lot of other anglers put baits in its general vicinity. So I think the big name of the game here in the Midwest is throwing something different than everybody else is throwing. I can go to some ponds right now and I guarantee they have seen a green pumpkin Senko 10 bajillion times in the past 2 weeks. So if I can go there and throw something completely different, if I can throw, a little glide bait, if I can throw a jerk bait, if I can throw a swim jig, if I can throw a blade bait, if I can throw something that's a little bit different than just the green pumpkin Senko and the silver chatterbait that they've seen 1,000 times, I think that helps. The changes that you can make can also be minor. So if they're on a square bill bite, but you want to do something different, maybe a lot of people around you are throwing rattling square bills. So in your case, then throw a silent square bill. If a lot of people are throwing double willow spinner baits, throw a Colorado blade every once in a while. I just think part of the issue with catching fish that are so pressured is that they're just starting to become conditioned to certain things that they see all the time. Like how many times has that fish seen and ignored a whopper plopper? Because that is a very distinct bait, a distinct sound and look and vibration to it, and they start to get hip to it. So my big tip is try to think outside of the box. Try and do something different. Try and make little changes so that you're not throwing the exact same thing that everybody else around you is. All right, the next question here is from Liam, who says, hey, Andrew, I love the show. Was wondering what your thoughts are on mini glide baits. I've been seeing a lot of popularity in them recently, specifically Maxed Fishing's The Raptor, and are they something worth buying? Have you tried them yet? Thanks again, Liam. Liam, this is going to be a real short answer here, man. No, I have not tried the Raptor because I am not paying $40 for a 2-inch hard bait. I'm not doing it. I don't care if they work. There are certain lines in the sand that I have to draw, and one of those is going to be that I'm not paying $40 for a bait the size of my pinky. I'm not doing it. Like there are certain things that I think are crazy expensive. I think a Vision 110 is expensive. I think a regular glide bait is expensive, but at least if I'm going to spend, $100 on a glide bait, at least it's a 7-inch glide bait that has a lot of material to it. I feel like I'm getting my $100 worth more than if I'm spending $40 for something that is 2 inches long. That is crazy to me. So no, I have not bought one. I have not tried one. They could work. They could be awesome, but I just cannot make myself pay $40 for something that small. All right, the next question here is from Brendan, who says, "Hey, Andrew, this is Brendan. As of last summer, I'm really getting into creek wading and the sort. I've been out twice so far this year on nicer days to a local creek that meets up with a river, and I haven't had any luck. As a matter of fact, I haven't seen any fish at all, and they're usually all the way through that creek. Do they wait until the spawn to move up the creek and bed in warmer waters? What's the science behind this? For context, this creek usually holds trout, largemouth bass, smallmouth bass, and some mudsuckers, as my buddies call them." Okay, so I don't know about your specific creek. I don't know how it sets up. The fact that it has trout in it too tells me that it's going to be very different than a lot of the creeks that I fish, but I can tell you what I think our fish do. So in the creeks that I grew up fishing, which were very much like just farm creeks running through the middle of nowhere that did meet up to a bigger river at some point. So they were kind of like the tributary of a little bit bigger river. Those fish are all throughout those creeks during the spring. And then what would happen is in like mid to late summer, as those water levels drop, as you get to like the dry season here and you haven't had a lot of rain and some of those creeks start to get shallower, those fish would move either up or down that creek to where there was deeper runs of water, and they would stay in that deeper run of water through the rest of summer until you got some good rains in the fall, and then sometimes they would make their way back to shallower parts in the fall, and then they would fall right back to those deeper spots for the wintertime. So that seemed to be a pattern here. I really think those fish are kind of programmed in their brain to know once the water level gets to a certain point that they need to move, because they know, and they know this because they've survived multiple years. So if they didn't know this, they probably would have died, that you do have to get to deeper water before the pool that you get stuck in gets separated and starts to dry out. So you have to find an area that you can survive for longer periods of time and has the bait and has things to sustain you until you get that next influx of water and you can move up or down that creek again a little bit more freely. So I don't know what your water level looks like right now. It's spring, so I would assume it's not like super low, but when the water level does get low, those fish do tend to, as you say, disappear. And then they will come back once the water levels get to a certain point that they feel comfortable with and they can move a little bit more freely up and down that creek. So that's what I think ours do. Other than that, I'm not really sure. You could have had a fish kill. That's an option too, especially in farm creeks. I have seen that happen time and time again. You'll have a section of creek that fishes really, really well for a couple years, and then you'll just go back one time and now all of a sudden there's like, hundreds of dead fish all around because of pesticides or fertilizers or whatever they use on the farms. I've seen that happen like way too many times to even count. You could have had a bad winter that could have done some stuff there too. I'm not really sure, but usually when I see the times like you're talking about, it's not spring, it's like summer, late summer, early fall is when those fish seem to kind of disappear around here. All right, and our last question here today is from Simon, who says, "What's up? I recently got a Shimano Sahara spinning reel for $45 at Dick's Sporting Goods," in parentheses, in all caps, he put deals. And he says, "And I've been loving it, but I don't really understand the switch on the front of it. It seems to allow the reel to go backwards. Why would you want that on a spinning reel, and what's the purpose of having it? Thanks, and I love the podcast, and I've learned so much from listening." Okay, Simon, that is a great question because I'm sure we have all thought the same thing at one point. You have that like anti-reverse switch on there, and 99.99999% of the time you have it engaged because you don't want to reel backwards and mess up your reel, obviously. So then the natural question is the one that you ask, well, why is it even an option? Why would you want to reel backwards at any point? Well, this is an old school technique called back reeling. And what it basically does is like you can put a little less strain on your drag when you're fighting a fish if you reel backwards a little bit, if you don't have that anti-reverse engaged. So if you flip it to the side that lets you reel backwards, then it is on you to keep that reel in place so that you don't let it go backwards and then you don't mess up, your tension during that fight with the fish. But as long as you're keeping your hand on that reel and you're kind of pushing forward to make sure that it's not moving backwards, then when you actually do want to move it backwards, you can. So a good example would be like when I'm fishing in the kayak and I'm using a casting reel, I will actually engage engage that thumb bar and let that fish run if it like gets really close to the kayak and then makes a huge run right under there, because I have my drag lock down. So I'm not going to have any drag to let it out. I don't want it flipping me or breaking me off or whatever. So I'll quickly engage that thumb bar and then I will manually thumb that spool to let that fish take some line out. So I kind of have like a manual drag system with my thumb. That's kind of what you're doing with that back reeling, is you're letting that reel go a little bit backwards, keeping tension on that fish to let that fish have more line. You're almost making like a manual drag system out of it. So that's the understanding I have of why there's even an option to have anti-reverse or not on a lot of those reels, is because some people during the fight of a fish really do want to be able to reel backwards just a little bit to let a little bit of line out while keeping tension on that fish to kind of help their drag system not work so hard or have a little bit more control there. So that's my answer. I think that's the right answer, but that's all I know about the reason why there would be anything other than anti-reverse on a spinning reel. All right, everybody, that is our episode today. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to the Tackle Talk podcast. As always, if you want to keep up with us, we're at tackletalkpodcast.com. You can email me, tackletalkpodcast@gmail.com. We are on Instagram, we're on Facebook, we're on YouTube, all that good stuff. Again, thank you for taking some time this week to listen to the show, and I will see you right back here next Tuesday for another brand new episode of Tackle Talk.
Thank you for listening to the Tackle Talk podcast. Tackle Talk is produced by Andrew Hayes. Copyright 2019. For more, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts.